We'll be streaming the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, live on our website this weekend. You can join our live stream Friday through Sunday all day at ntd.com, but only on our website. You won't find it on YouTube because we need to protect our channel from video removals and possible strikes. We are live streaming all the speakers, including former President Donald Trump. He's expected to speak at the conference on Sunday. It will be his first public appearance since leaving the White House. We hope to see you there.
We are gathered in dark times. We're gathered at a time where the hard left, where the socialists control the levers of government, where they control the White House, where they control every executive branch, where they control both houses of Congress. Bernie is wearing mittens. And AOC is telling us she was murdered. And the media desperately wants to see a Republican civil war. Liberty is under assault, and what are we going to do? I'll tell you, we will fight. California, they've helpfully explained, you can go out and protest. You can scream and yell, abolish the police. And this virus, magically, no one will get infected. You can French kiss the guy next to you, yelling, abolish the police. And no one will get infected. But if you go to church and say, amazing grace, everyone's going to die. I want to understand how this virus works. So when you walk in, you got to put your mask on. Sadly, I've got two. You walk in, you got to put your mask on. You sit down, you take your mask off. See, apparently the virus is actually connected to elevation. No, remember, this is all about science. It's actually, it may not be elevation. I think it's that there are hormones that are released in your thighs when you're sitting. So you can sit at the table and there's no virus being transmitted. But if you stand up, put the mask on! And they look at Donald J. Trump, and they look at the millions and millions of people inspired who went to battle fighting alongside President Trump, and they're terrified. And they want him to go away. Let me tell you this right now, Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere. And the Republican Party is not the party just of the country clubs. The Republican Party is the party of steel workers and construction workers and pipeline workers and taxi cab drivers and cops and firefighters and waiters and waitresses and the men and women with calluses on their hands who are working for this country. That is our party, and these deplorables are here to stay.
What I see in Florida right now is exemplary of the Republican Party, right? This is a state, like the party is, that has open schools, open businesses, and open churches. What we've seen in some of the more left-leaning states is exactly the opposite. The only thing that they have open is open borders. Who would have thought that within 33 days we'd be bombing the Middle East again? I would have. Oh no, guys, come on, the military-industrial complex, I'm surprised it took them 33 days. I guess they waited till the first month, so they couldn't say that was part of the first 30, but it was only shortly thereafter where we started bombing the Middle East. Speaking of bombing the Middle East, have you seen Liz Cheney's poll numbers? No, listen, the one thing I'll say for Liz Cheney is I'm sure she has a lot of bipartisan support, because if there's one thing that she and Joe Biden definitely want to do, it's bomb the Middle East. Everything else is a disaster. Everything else is just rhino policies, the kinds of policies that put the Republican Party in a position where they needed a Donald Trump. There's one thing the Republican Party has been really good at over the last few decades, is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They've caved to every special interest. They've caved to corporate America. They've caved and bowed to the radical left that hates their guts, hates their values, and hates their freedoms. Lincoln Project Liz, as I'd like to call her, is the leader of that failed movement. And if we want to go back to losing, if we want to go back to an America Last policy, we should be following that. But I don't, and I don't think anyone in this room does either.
I will never apologize for defending America. And you know, one of the first things I learned in the Army, really one of the first things anyone learns in the Army, is the 5 principles of patrolling, the most important of which is security. Because if you don't have security, you don't have anything. And security is what our brave police officers bring to our communities every single day across America. And that's why conservatives should never apologize for backing the blue. And whether it's a child mob at the New York Times, or a social media mob, or an actual mob in our streets, we will never bend the knee to a politically correct.
President Trump is not going anywhere. He is here to stay. That's the good news. We love President Trump, and I'll tell you, I will confidently say that President Trump, from his desk at Mar-a-Lago, will accomplish more for America in the next 4 years than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could ever dream of. That is because we are not giving up. The Republican Party is being reborn thanks to President Trump. It is being reborn as the party of the working class, of minorities, of hard-working American men and women. The party of America first. The party of President Trump.
It is going to be up to us to stand up for that First Amendment, to make the point that we, the people, treasure that right to worship as we please. We treasure that right to speak our mind and have an opinion. We treasure the ability to meet, to peaceably assemble, like we are doing here today. And we treasure our right to petition our government. And on that I will say, Nancy Pelosi, let's get the fencing and the wire down and away from the U.S. Capitol. You know, it is important that we have robust, respectful political debate. But in order to keep this in this country, in order for us to have the ability to defend the Constitution, to defend our rights, to vote for the candidate of our choice, it is imperative that we continue the work that we in the U.S. Senate started with President Donald Trump, and that we stand up to China, that we stand up to big tech, and that we continue to protect the Constitution and all of our Bill of Rights. Are you with me? Are you ready to go to work? All right, let's go fight to make certain we protect the Bill of Rights. Stand up for freedom. Thank you all. God bless you.
Look around in other parts of our country, and in far too many places, we see schools closed, businesses shuttered, and lives destroyed. And while so many governors over the last year had kept locking people down, Florida lifted people up. Florida is leading in protecting our vulnerable residents, saving the economy, and safeguarding the freedom of our people. In Florida, schools are open. Every Floridian has a right to earn a living, and all businesses have a right to operate. Now, we are stronger as a state and much happier as a people because of this leadership. Florida has lower per capita COVID mortality than the national average and lower than 27 other states. Our unemployment rate is lower than the national average, even though tourism isn't fully back. And our budget is in great shape. We have not touched one red cent from our rainy day fund throughout this whole time. Florida got it right, and the lockdown states got it wrong.
We're the party of the little guy. We're the party of the working people. We're the party of moms and dads. We're the party of taxpayers and citizens and activists. How is it fair? How is it in line with the United States Constitution in any way, shape, or form to shut down Schaefer Leather Goods, where they're selling work boots and cowboy boots to Ohioans, but allow Walmart down the street to sell work boots and cowboy boots to those same consumers? And that's what the politicians did. That's what the bureaucrats did. But thank God, in this country founded and based in Judeo-Christian values, where we have movement conservative activists like yourself, where we have a party led by Donald J. Trump,
and the idea that we will allow a totalitarian government to tell us who's essential and who's not essential, it's scary. And the thing that scares me the most is that we didn't have enough conservatives standing up and saying, no, enough is enough. And so back to your question, how do you offer hope to a hopeless generation? You offer hope, number one, through faith. That's the first way that you offer hope. And then And number two is self-governance. And we saw this, and I don't want to take up too much time. I get real passionate about it. Having been the former Speaker of the House for the state of Oklahoma, we saw it firsthand how a government can start to unleash opportunity in people. But the reality is this: we have a finite time, and we have to, every single generation of Americans, we have to continue to expand what it means to be American and what liberty means in this country. But we have to fight for it. We can't allow it we can't allow it to languish. And we saw it in this last pandemic. We saw how the left will use any excuse for power. They will use any excuse that they can to garner power. We saw it during the pandemic when the left stood up and said that they are going to use exceptional government power to keep you in your home, to keep you fearful, and to keep you afraid of one another. I think enough is enough.
Yep. I asked this question. Our schools are still largely closed, our public schools in Nevada. The question is, if teachers were not being paid over the last 9 months, is there any chance that schools would still be closed? And this is not to go after teachers, it's just to show that as government was making these decisions, it's like a value, there's nothing lost for the government worker or the teacher or the big box that gets to stay open, and the small businesses and by the way, churches and church attendance, which is going to be vanquished going forward, there just wasn't any urgency about these classes of people. And of course, there's no science that distinguishes these things. There really isn't. There's no details that definitively say why California has no dining indoors. We have dining indoors as of the last few months, but only 4 people. And you know, if you wear the mask as you're walking into the restaurant, everybody's safe, and then you sit down. We've all done this. You sit down 3 steps later and take off your mask. And so whenever people, like you said, try to ask common sense questions, they're just immediately shut down.
Florida's like an amazing woman. Adventurous, beautiful, mostly sunny, sometimes a little crazy, and always here to encourage and support success. By contrast, New York is like a bad ex-husband. Mean, won't let you go out to dinner, you're less safe, financially spiraling downward, and they may kill your grandparents. Now, the fake news media and their allies in Silicon Valley made Governor Cuomo out to be some iconic cross between King David and Tom Brady. What a big lie that turned out to be. According to former aides, Governor Cuomo was offering to replace staff meetings with strip poker. Meanwhile, they were stripping Granny out of the COVID ward at the hospital and tossing her in the nursing home, just enough time to infect everybody and then go back to the hospital so that deaths could be recategorized for politics. How about freedom for young and healthy people, learning for students, opportunity for entrepreneurs? How about we ditch the lockdown governors like Cuomo and Newsom and Murphy and never ditch the American way of life and the American spirit?
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.